It was grossly out of tune with any kind of reality facing returned service members, so much so that it had won a place as one of the most infamous B films in recent memory. It swept the Razzies, even in categories it hadn't been officially nominated for. It had horrible practical and special effects that were used as, for the love of God, don't do this, filmmaking tutorials on social media. It was so badly written, it had become an entire series of memes, and that was all before Greasy Ferret Jr. tried to defend it to the media, where he was ripped to shreds, as he deserved. Mentioning that movie was the worst possible thing the poor guy could have done, even though he was trying to be supportive. He had no idea who Atlas was or what teams he had served on during his time in the Marines. Atlas was the real thing, complete with actual PTSD and physical damage from his service. Ferret was a skid mark in Hollywood's tighty-whities by comparison, and he knew it. His smile stretched so thin Atlas suspected it would pop like a soap bubble at the slightest disturbance. "I appreciate your support," Ferret told the fan before looking, obviously, toward the empty space behind the man's shoulder. God, Atlas hated working for assholes like this. But a paycheck was a paycheck, and he wasn't in a place to turn down some of the miserable jobs that crossed B's desk at Whitethorn. He cleared his throat and offered the effusive fan a low, "If we could please keep the line moving." The confused fan glanced over his shoulder at the non-existent line, looked back at Atlas and his migraine-induced scowl, and slunk away. Great. Now Atlas felt like a douchebag. "A lot of people liked that movie," Ferret said to Atlas, as if Atlas had insulted the film. "A lot of people said it would have been better received if Hollywood wasn't full of liberal hacks who gatekeep true talent." Atlas did his best to tune out Ferret's further rantings and watched the crowd passing instead. Very few of them even looked Greasy Ferret Jr.'s way. Most were focused on their food, or examining items for sale in stalls, or counting tickets to see what midway games they could play. Every now and then, someone's attention would drift to him. Some of it was curiosity. He expected that, since there was no real reason to see a formally dressed security agent at a local fair. Some of it was more invasive. Every lingering, hungry glance sent his way made him want to reach up and check his shirt collar to confirm it still hid his scars. Worse still were the moments when someone would slow as they passed him, subtly trying to catch his eye. He didn't know how to respond to those interactions. He'd had a few no-strings trysts since his release from the hospital, but they were usually about quick mutual satisfaction that didn't require him to take his clothes off and bare his scars. He didn't like being on display, and liked it even less when Greasy Ferret Jr. noticed the interest from the occasional passers-by and started in on tales about his own sexual conquests in a bizarre attempt to save face. The remaining 2 hours of his shift crawled by. There weren't enough visitors to their booth to keep Greasy Ferret Jr. in check. The crowds were changing from families to teens and college kids showing up for the evening's events. One of the night's bands was starting to warm up at the amphitheater. They'd attempted to play classic rock covers. What they lacked in talent, they made up for in volume, and Atlas's migraine dug in a little deeper. He was full out nauseous by the time Ferret called it quits for the night. "I think it's time to mingle," Greasy Ferret Jr. declared as he walked away from his booth. He didn't bother to clean up anything, and Atlas sent up a prayer for whatever poor assistant was saddled with the rancid carbuncle. "Have a good time," Atlas replied. It was time to escape at last. "Hey, wait," Ferret protested. "You're not done yet." Atlas checked his watch. "That's incorrect. My shift ended 3 minutes ago." "I hired you to protect me today," Ferret said. "I'm not leaving yet, so you aren't either." "Here we go," Atlas lamented silently. There was something uniquely disgusting about the arrogance that came with privilege, even more so when the privilege wasn't earned and had been bought and paid for by the hour. Out loud, he said, "Thank you for working with Whitethorn. Have a nice evening." He turned to leave, desperate to get to the parking lot and relative silence of his car. A hand settled on his shoulder, digging into his jacket and the scarred skin underneath. He reacted without thought, spinning free of the grip and landing a quick jab to the diaphragm of his attacker to gain space. A half-second too late, he remembered who had grabbed hold of him. There was nothing he could do to take it back, though. Greasy Ferret